Well, hello, friends. My name is Danzy, and it's time. Again. Now, as usual, this video is going to contain spoilers, and secondly, this is a non-linear review, which means it's going to be light on recap. So, as always, make sure you've watched the episode first so you know what's going on. Starting off with what I liked about the episode, again, this week had a pretty definitive victor. Brienne being knighted by Jaime was really heartwarming. On the one hand, it was definitely their best scene since the bath in season 3, but on the other hand, their character dynamic has been pretty much totally neglected the last few seasons. I also want to nitpick the fact that it kind of sucks that Jaime didn't come up with the idea to do this on his own. She maybe deserved a little better than a drunken knighting inspired by Tormund being like, yeah, I'd knight you, baby, with my dick. Like, Winterfell has Catelyn's sept. Why not do it there, where the woman they made a promise to all those years ago used to practice her faith? Maybe even with both Stark sisters alive and safe standing there as witnesses. That would have been so perfect. However, while I do think that this scene could have gone from good to great with some tweaks, if you drop the context and just focus on the sentiment of Brienne being knighted by Jaime, and by that I mean project the book characters onto it, then it was a really good moment. It was fine. This is going to be a quick one because there isn't a whole lot to comment on, but I wanted to mention it since either one or both of these characters is totally going to be biting it next week. The moment a character talks about their plans after the war is the moment you can see the sniper dots appearing on their forehead. But yeah, I've actually really grown to like these two, believe it or not. I think these actors have really great chemistry with each other. In fact, it's so good, it's kind of to the point where it makes Daenerys and Jon's interactions look like two awkward kids at prom. Like I said though, they're sadly not going to be retiring to the Bahamas or whatever. Where did they say they were going? Oh well, either way, they're not getting there, so. Another quick one was Theon. I liked when he ate soup with Sansa. And actually, you know what, I'm being unfair, his other interactions were pretty good too. Not much else to say, really. I wish he was in more of the episode. Now, I am out of clean spoons, so please excuse me while I use these barbecue tongs to take my tea bag out. There it is. Moving on to the okay section, Jaime's scenes were kind of a mixed bag, but I am so happy that it was Brienne and not Tyrion who made the winning appeal for him. As soon as he stood up, I was like, oh man, this is gonna be like a 9-hour scene of him Atticus Finching into the camera, isn't it? Anyways, here's where I'm gonna play script doctor. I think it would have been more impactful if in the opening scene, they locked Jaime up just like with the intent to execute him. Then at the end of the episode, Brienne convinces Sansa to let him go. Then, in return, Jaime decides to knight her for this very noble act of putting her honor on the line for him. Because the big sell of this episode in the trailer was, oh man, is Jaime gonna get beheaded? And then, not even 4 minutes into the episode, it's like, nope, he's fine. Everything's cool. Like, it felt way too easy, do you know what I mean? There's this 8-minute stretch of scenes where he's just wandering around talking to people. And all of these conversations would have had so much more tension if we as the audience were made to believe that Jaime was gonna get executed tragically for his past sins, and at a time where he's gonna be needed for the upcoming fight. This is what I mean by the writers just taking a little bit of extra time to structure these things better, because with another draft of the script, most of this episode could have been fine. Also, I thought about it for a long time, but I gotta put Jaime's scene with Bran in the bad section. This should have been one of the cruxes of the entire series, but instead it was 60 seconds long and super underwhelming. I know they're married to the idea of Bran ceasing to be a character, which I still think is absolutely criminal, but it's what they've decided to go with at this point, so fine. What I hate so much more is Jaime apologizing with the sincerity of someone who accidentally blocked a driveway with their car. Like, Jaime, you pushed a kid out a window. You are allowed to feel bad about that, regardless of what your reasoning was at the time. You could even play into Bran's robot thing with Jaime getting emotional. Like, how can you just sit there? Well, I know how you can just sit there. That was me. But like, how can you just forgive me so easily kind of thing? Because here's the thing, Jaime, in his own way, does hold justice in high regard. And I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility that no punishment would have been the most painful thing for him. Almost like a Lannister being denied the ability to pay his debts, if you will. So we kind of need to talk about the Cersei's elephant in the room that is Jorah and how he relates to the North. Because if you think the Lannisters would get spit on for showing their faces in Winterfell, Jorah used to actively sell northern citizens into slavery. So what did he actually do to redeem himself as a northerner and as a Mormont? Like, we're missing a scene here. Also, Sam, I know it's your family sword to give away, but you know his dad absolutely hated him, right? Moving on to the larger group stuff in front of the fireplace, there was a whole bunch of oversimplified or even flat-out incorrect retellings of what the characters' journeys have been up to this point. Tyrion goes, "Oh, everyone here has fought the Starks, but isn't it funny that now we're fighting for them? Oh, the irony." And it's like, dude, who's we? Other than you and Jaime, none of these people have ever actively been out for the Starks. Then Jaime talks about how he used to be so in love with Cersei back in season 1. Yeah, he only stopped being in love with Cersei literally 3 episodes ago. Like, no, don't pretend like Jaime's decision to leave Cersei was this huge series-long arc when it was actually just this complete about-face in last season's finale. And I know a lot of critics liked these scenes, but guys, they're trying to trick you. This is a scam that lazy television writers use where they play sad music and they make all the characters talk in this overly sentimental way and they prey on your nostalgia for better seasons. This isn't for narrative effect. They want you to focus on where they started and where they are now so that you can be distracted from the absolute mess that was everything in between. This is like going to a movie and then at the end the main character is like, "Remember when you bought your popcorn and sat down, audience? Look how far we've come on this journey together, humble viewer." Daenerys and Sansa are gonna kick off my really bad section, and oh man, do I have thoughts about this. I was really excited when this scene started, because I was like, oh, okay, maybe we're turning a corner here. Maybe we're actually gonna get a relationship between these two, instead of the directors being like, no, must have conflict. But in one of the most meta moments this show has ever had, Daenerys and Sansa sit down like, yeah, we do have a lot in common, and no meaningful reasons to be fighting. And yet I can't help but feel like we're at odds with one another. Why is that? It's almost like Emilia Clarke broke character for a second to turn to the director like, yes, no, David, I'm sorry to interrupt. What is my character's motivation for hating Sansa? In the end, these two empowered female characters, remember that's their words, not mine, come together over their mutual love of a man. But also don't, because same old discrepancy everyone vying for king or queen has with the North wanting its independence. So this was not only a failure to write character interactions, but also just really boring. Also, being serious for a moment, by her own admission, she is only there fighting the undead because she is in love with Jon. You guys know I'm not the biggest Daenerys fan, but even I think she would be there out of a moral obligation to protect people. That's rough as writers. And finally, we got one last thing to talk about. Oh, hang on one sec. Hi. Hi. No, I'd like to add a bottle of bleach to my next grocery order. The Arya and Gendry scene. Yeah, no, for my eyes. Yeah. Okay, I'm just gonna come out and say it. Arya having sex with Gendry was a gross scene that nobody asked for. This scene was the equivalent of that guy who decides to down 12 drinks at a company brunch. Like, this was going way too far, and they know it. And I'm not even talking about the fact that they had sex. Personally, I think just a kiss would have been more impactful, because even with everything that Arya has been through, she's still totally innocent about this one area of growing up. But that's not even the point I'm trying to make. The idea of Arya having sex isn't gross. What's gross is the creepy, voyeuristic way that they shot it. I want the people who came up with this scene to look me in the eye and tell me that it was doing right by the character to have Arya stand topless directly into the camera. Like, no, this wasn't about Arya and Gendry's relationship. This wasn't even about Arya's sexual awakening. You did this as a cheap marketing gimmick because you knew correctly that Twitter would blow up over it. And if you don't believe me, check out this tweet that they posted before the episode aired. Classy that you seemingly count the days until your young actresses are old enough so that you can put them in these totally unneeded and very creepy sex scenes. That's a normal and not at all weird thing to do. Anyways, final thoughts. I mean, on the one hand, it took itself a lot more seriously than last week's episode. But on the other hand... Okay, so this episode basically had 3 ideas that it repeated over and over again for 58 minutes. Remember season 1? Let's sit around joking about how hopeless it is instead of coming up with a contingency plan to retreat if we need to. And Tyrion is a beautiful angel child who we must protect at all costs, because apparently his intellect is an invaluable asset despite the fact that he hasn't said or done anything clever in years. Also, this episode had a not-so-subtle crush, pun intended, on the Lord of the Rings movies, specifically the lead up to the Battle of Helm's Deep. I'm kind of surprised more people aren't bringing this up, because if you've watched The Two Towers as many times as I have, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. Right down to the kid, and the long drawn-out scenes about how hopeless it is, and the stuffing the people who can't fight into caves. Except they're stuffing people into crypts, which, when you're fighting an army that can raise dead bodies, Let's maybe think about this, guys. I don't know, man. To me, this felt like a quick curtain call to collect some unearned brownie points. But I would be interested to see what you guys think in the comments, because like I said, a lot of people like this episode. Meanwhile, let's check in on that bingo card. Like I said, Tyrion dominated way too much of this episode for what he actually did. Unless we magically get an amazing reunion between Sansa and the Hound, I'm gonna call time of death on these reunions. Likewise for no one bringing up the fact that Rhaegar just had two sons named Aegon, and the annulment has not been explained further so far. I might end up taking these off later, but to me, Daenerys' first reaction to all this should have been her trying to call bullshit for those reasons. And I'm going to retroactively add Lyanna Mormont talks more shit than a kid on Xbox Live. This should have been filled out last week and I missed it, so good catch, guys. If you would like to pay money to put more treats into Renly's mouth, please consider becoming a patron. I'm even going to be doing my monthly Patreon hangout this Sunday, so come and chill. Renly, if you could stop licking me. Mummy's trying to finish her video. Were you excited to see Ghost in the episode? Oh, yes you were. Who loves Ghost? You do. Where was I? Also, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss new videos, and then ding the bell, because why even have a subscribe button in the first place if it's only gonna work half the time, am I right? I'll see you next week, friends. Also, I really love Jon's little battle map that looked like it was part of a Playmobil set. As someone who's done a lot of studying of medieval battles, I could not tell you what strategy is supposed to be depicted here. It seems to amount to everyone stand outside the castle and make sure you're facing in the general direction of the White Walkers. Oh wait, no, I kind of see it now. Okay, this circle represents Tormund, this triangle represents Brienne, and all of these squares represent how utterly fucked they are.